Hi, my name's Lee, and this is ETA, where I tell you about the activities that I use to teach English. Hello there. So, in this video, what I'd like to do is talk about repurposing a classic board game for use in an English class. Now, the game I'd like to talk about is the classic game Snakes and Ladders. For those of you who don't know what Snakes and Ladders is, I think it's called Chutes and Ladders in America, which actually probably makes a bit more sense because you have like a ladder and then like a slide to go down, as opposed to the Snakes and Ladders where you go up the ladders and down the snake. I guess the snake eats you. But this is a little picture up in the top corner here of what the Snakes and Ladders looks like. It's a board game where you roll the dice, you move your counter along. If you land on a ladder, you get to travel up the ladder, and if you land on a snake's head, you travel down. It's a really simple game, but it's very versatile in that you can repurpose it to practice English. I have actually made a worksheet version of the board of Snakes and Ladders. I've made two. I've made a one that's 100 squares in length, and then I've made a shorter 50 square version as well. So if you'd like to download those from the ETA Google Drive, the link is in the description below, and you can grab those for free. So how have I used this in the past? Well, one way I used it was to practice numbers. So I told the students that after we'd practiced learning 1 to 100, I had them play Snakes and Ladders, and I told them to roll 2 dice to move their counter along and to say the number that they landed on. So the students would just move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they would say 6. Or they would move 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and if they landed on 16 square, they would say 16. Now they're not saying the number on the dice, they're saying the number that they landed on the board. So at first it's going to be the same as the number on the dice, but after that you're going to go up into higher order numbers. And it's a nice little way for the students to play a fun game and to practice the pronunciation of higher order numbers. Another way I used Snakes and Ladders in the past was I put little pictures of animals in each of the squares, and I used it to practice how many. Now what happened was the students rolled the dice and they would move their counter along, and they would land on a square which had like maybe a dog on that square. The other students would ask them, how many dogs? And they would have to say the animal plus the number of the square. So it would be 7 dogs. And then the next person would roll the dice, they'd move their counter. Maybe it's got a tiger on it with the number 23. So how many tigers? They respond 23 tigers. So this was another way that I repurposed Snakes and Ladders to practice English grammar points. So there are many ways you can use Snakes and Ladders to practice English grammar points. You know, you can create a set of cards that go with the game, have the students roll the dice, move their counter along, draw a card, say the English, and if they get it, you know, and if they get it correct in some way, then they get to stay where they are. And maybe if they get it wrong, they have to move back 2 squares. So you can use Snakes and Ladders to practice almost any grammar point you can think of. And if you get into the idea of just using packs of cards, you don't have to change the board every time. You can just keep with a basic board design of Snakes and Ladders, and you can tack on any English grammar point you want to it. So I would recommend giving Snakes and Ladders a try as a way of practicing English in your class. If you have a big class and you only set aside 15-20 minutes to do an activity, go with the smaller version of the game. The students will never make it to 100, even if you let them roll 2 dice at a time. Go with the smaller 50 square version of the game. Give them 2 dice and let them roll the dice and move their counter along. And they'll have a really good time doing it. They'll really enjoy it. Let me give you some examples of grammar points. So one you could do is you could print off a lot of character cards, a lot of pictures of famous characters, and you could have the students practice using who is this? So they roll the dice, they move their counter along, and they draw a card and they show it to everyone else in the group and they say, "Who is this?" And the group has to try and guess who that is. And then they put the card down and the next person rolls. So in that case, it's not contingent on them getting it right or wrong. You're just playing a board game and adding some English onto it. Very, very simple. So if you want to talk about preferences in a game of Snakes and Ladders, you could have them roll the dice, move their counter along. Maybe you have a set of cards with different nouns on it, and they draw a card and they ask the next person, "Do you like the noun that's on the card? Do you like soccer?" "Yes, I do." "Okay, cool." The next person rolls the dice, moves their counter, they draw a card. "Do you like bananas?" "Yes, I do." Okay. So that's another way you can add on in a preferences grammar point, very simply. Let's say you want to do a where do you want to go grammar point. So you just have a deck of cards with different country flags on them, and you roll the dice, you move your counter, everyone asks you, "Where do you want to go?" You draw the top card and you say the flag. "I want to go to America," or "I want to go to Egypt," or "I want to go to China." Put the card back. So that's another example of a grammar point that you could use linked to Snakes and Ladders. Okay, that's the end of today's video. Hopefully this activity is something you can use in your English class. If you think it is, please give me a like. If you use it, please write a comment below and tell me how you got on with the activity. If you'd like to see more of these videos, you can hit the round subscribe button in the middle here. And as always, all the worksheets that I use are available for free download from the ETA Google Drive. And I will see you next time.